Week 10 was a crazy week for fantasy football, especially for DST. You look at the Seattle Seahawks and the New York Jets, those defenses put you in prime position to win your fantasy football matchups. Of course, the rest of your team had to show up, but those defenses gave you such crazy performances that it raised the tides of the rest of your team. Unfortunately for us in week 10, our streamers did not do so hot. It was probably the worst week on the season for us. The Cleveland Browns finished 17th. And look, when you factor in the fact that the special teams unit gave up 2 touchdowns, that changed the output and the finish for this defense. I mean, Justin Fields didn't even throw for 100 yards. He had like 15 yards passing outside of the Brees Hall screen for a touchdown. So the defense of the Browns didn't play bad. It's just the special teams gave up 2 touchdowns, which ultimately took away from the points that we were hoping. The Panthers finished 17th as well, and the Bucks finished 22nd. The Bucks were a big disappointment. I don't even think the defense played bad. It was just a matter of the Patriots playing good. They had some big chunk plays. The defense contained them outside of a few big plays that ultimately cost us our, output for fantasy, especially for fantasy football defenses. But let's go ahead and look at week number 11 here. And my number one defense to stream this week is going to be the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons are home in this matchup. They take on the Panthers. Panthers and the Falcons have played each other already this year, and a little bit of PTSD in that matchup because we liked it last time. It just didn't work out for us. Now, Falcons 12% rostered across fantasy formats. And when you factor in what happened last time these teams played, it wasn't that the Falcons defense played bad. It was really that the Falcons offense played super, super bad. I mean, you had a bunch of turnovers putting the defense, in really awful position. And ultimately there was a defensive touchdown for the Panthers that affected the total output for the defense. But this was an offense in the Panthers that had less than 225 yards. Now, these teams are different at this juncture here, but Falcons 12% roster across fantasy formats, 4 straight losses for the Falcons since beating the Bills at home, where they handled their business there, but they have been awful ever since. The defense has not been that bad though, and they get the Panthers at home in this one, so we get a home team, right? And we get a solid defense in the Falcons against a bad offense in the Panthers. Now, this is a very, very pivotal stretch for the Falcons. You factor in that their season's kind of on the line here with these next couple of weeks, right? They play the Panthers, then they play the Saints, and then they play the Jets. So they know this is a make or break stretch for them where they need to either sweep or come away with 2 wins here to make up ground that they've lost during this losing streak that they've been on. And I think they'll take care of business here with the Panthers. They know they have to come out ready to play here, and I think they'll be ready for this matchup. When I looked into the matchup, right, we talked about it, 225 yards the last time they played. That was also on the road. They get to be home in this matchup. 23rd in terms of the defensive EPA over the last 3 weeks. Over the course of the season, the defense has been better. Over the last 3 weeks during the losing streak, they have not been nearly as good. When you factor in that the run defense is probably the biggest concern here for the Falcons in this matchup. And when you look at the Panthers, that is the biggest strength right now. It's running the football, right? Run defense for the Falcons, 30th in EPA. But let's also keep in mind that the Falcons, they have a young defense, a lot of newer players, and, there's going to be miscues and some mistakes, but there are some guys that have shined on this defense, even though that they haven't resulted in some wins the last couple of weeks. They have some good players. Jesse Bates is playing really, really well as of late, and they're going up against an offense in the Panthers that, when you factor in the offense EPA-wise, ranks 30th in offense over the last 3 weeks. So really what the Falcons need to do is handle business. They need to stack the box, right? Stop Rico Dowdle in this rushing attack, and force them to throw, force them to push the ball downfield. And that's something that Bryce Young and this David Canales offense is not doing right now, right? They're playing very conservative. They're running the football, right? And they're not stretching the field. So I think this is a pivotal game for the Falcons. I think they will come out ready to go in this one. Last note on the Panthers, 32nd when it comes to EPA per dropback. So they have not been very good at throwing the football over the last couple weeks. and have not been very efficient. So I like the Falcons in this matchup. Like I said, we get a home team, and ultimately the point total is not high either. Third lowest point total on the week. So we get a low point total, a home team, and a low EPA offense, right? So that is the formula we like. We get all three, and obviously pass rush is super important. And Falcons are generating a lot of pressure, right? They're one of those defenses that tend to give quarterbacks trouble. We'll see if that can result into getting to the quarterback this week. Let's go ahead and move over to my second streamer, and this one's a little bit spicy here. It's going to be the Miami Dolphins, who consensus has them pretty far down in the rankings. I have them decently high. I like them in this matchup. The more and more I dug into this, I was skeptical, right? I mean, it's the Miami Dolphins, and they take on the Washington Commanders, 2% roster across fantasy formats. We'll see if Terry McLaurin can give it a go. If Terry McLaurin's not ready to play in this one, I think that makes you feel even more confident. If Terry McLaurin does play, it might drop them down just a little bit. But the way I look at this is, right, eighth lowest point total on the week, home team. So we get a home team plus a low point total. And right now, over the last 3 weeks, this Commanders offense is averaging 1.3 turnovers per game. So they're giving us at least one turnover a game and 2.6 sacks per game over the last 3 weeks. So you factor those together, you're talking about 6 to 8 points there just off sacks and turnovers alone. And then you just look at the fact that the offense has not been very good. Right now, this Dolphins defense, shockingly enough, this defense has performed as a top 12 unit over the last 3 weeks. They're ranked number 12 in EPA over the last 3 weeks, and they're taking on an offense in the Commanders that really, with Marcus Mariota, he's a capable quarterback, but they've had their issues moving the football. They haven't been very efficient. 20th ranked offense in EPA over the last 3 weeks, so not very good. Now, rush defense is going to be the biggest factor in this matchup. The Dolphins' run defense has been very, very good. Third ranked rush defense in all of football right now in terms of EPA over the last 3 weeks. And we'll see if they can continue to play strong. But if they have to force Marcus Mariota to throw the football and this Dolphins offense can continue to put points up, right, the Commanders are going to have to play from behind. And that could be a recipe for success for this Dolphins defense, who, again, is starting to play really, really solid. So got to give them some props here. I like them as my number 2 ranked streamer on the week. My number 3 ranked streamer, and I wish I could have them higher, it's the 49ers going up against the Cardinals, 16% rostered across fantasy formats. We get an away team plus a divisional game. Those can be a little bit sketchy, right? When you factor in that divisional games, opponents know each other extremely well, and those games can go either way, right? But we also have an away team. So that's why I don't have them as high as I'd want to. It's also the third highest total, right? So this is a very sketchy play, right? There is a possibility for very high ceiling, though. The reason I like this defense is because Jacoby Brissett has taken a minimum of 5 sacks through 3 straight games. He's giving us a floor of 5 sacks, right? If you play in fantasy football and you're getting 2 points per sack, which most leagues are, we're talking about getting 10 points off of sacks alone for a floor. Now, the yards and the points are the sketchiest thing, and factoring in that the 49ers don't generate a ton of pressure. Right now, 8th lowest in pressure over the last 4 weeks. No Nick Bosa. Last time they played against Kyler Murray, they got 1 sack, and it was Bryce Huff. But they held this offense to under 20 points the last time they played, but they are missing some pieces on this 49ers defense. And when you factor in the defense right now over the last couple of weeks has not been very good, right? You're talking about the 24th ranked, this is the 24th ranked offense, with the Arizona Cardinals and the EPA, but the defense for the 49ers is 27th ranked over the last 3 weeks. So, this is a tough one to gauge here. I think there's some risk reward play here with the turnovers, and Jacoby has been kind of a statue back there. This offensive line is not very good. It's a matter of not a very good pass rush versus not a very good offensive line. What side is going to come out on top here? 49ers got embarrassed against the Rams last week, and I think they're going to be pretty pissed off, and they're still fighting for something. The Cardinals kind of, not that they mailed it in already, but they just got their teeth kicked in as well versus Seattle. They have Jacoby Brissett as the starting quarterback. I think their playoff chances are probably down the gutter, while the 49ers are, in position with their schedule the next couple weeks to make a run to establish themselves as a playoff contender. And I think Robert Saleh, after that game against the Rams, I think he's going to have those guys ready to go. I hope. I'm not super confident. That's why I have a team like the Dolphins ahead of them, and you'll see where I have them ranked in my full rankings. But I do like this matchup just because, man, it's so hard to ignore the fact that Jacoby's taken 5 sacks in every single game over the last 3 weeks. He isn't turning the football over, which is a very, that's the one thing that's not happening. Is he's taking care of the football, but I just something's telling me that this game could be a really, really nice play, but you just have to hope that the sacks get there. You got to hope that the defense steps up, and they've been a defense that hasn't really been that good. I mean, again, they lost to the Rams. That's a really, really good offense, arguably top 5, maybe even the number 1 offense in the NFL. I mean, they can make a case for that. But let's go ahead and look at my full rankings here, and the number 1 elite tier here. It starts off with the Houston Texans. Houston Texans going up against the Titans in this matchup. And, Texans, they came to play last week, right? I mean, they end up winning that game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and an impressive game for that defense. We know this is one of the best defenses in football. So I like them in this matchup this week against Tennessee, and Tennessee is a defense, an offense that we have to target every single week. I mean, it's just hopefully if you had the Texans last week, you can set them and forget them this week. It's a really, really good play. Consensus has them at 1. I have them at 1 as well. I'm not off of the consensus either for the next 2 picks here. Baltimore Ravens here at number 2. Marlon Humphreys might miss some time, which is a little sketchy for the secondary, but they're playing the Cleveland Browns. This is a really, really safe floor. The ceiling should be pretty good too. They're going up against a quarterback in Dylan Gabriel who looks absolutely lost out there. The biggest concern is, can you stop the run? And I think they can. This defense for the Ravens, I mean, we talk about it, but they're playing some really, really good football. You can see them up there in the chart over there over the last couple of weeks. They're playing like a top unit in the NFL. They've made some acquisitions, and it's paying dividends for them. Then I look at the number 3 here, and it's the Patriots. They go up against the New York Jets. I talked about it. Justin Fields had 15 yards passing, against the Browns up until the Breece Hall screen for a touchdown. But you factor in that this Patriots defense is really good at stopping the run. It's one of the best run defenses in the NFL. And, if they can stop Quinshon Judkins, I'm sorry. If they could stop Breece Hall in this rushing attack, they're not going to be much success. We saw it. Garrett Wilson probably not playing. I also got to mention here, Robert Spillane's neck is freaking insane. If you're at this part in the video and you hear this, I mean, please somebody comment, like, how ridiculous is this guy's neck? You ever see there's like the picture of Davis Mills' neck, and it's like, how big can it get? And people like double, triple, like it goes higher and higher and higher. That's like Robert Spillane might have a crazier neck. He might have the best neck in football. That's pause. That sounds crazy, but yeah, the younger folk know that was probably a pause on my end. So, but you get it. Then you have the Green Bay Packers here at number 4, rounding out the elite tier. They go up against the New York Giants. Fresh off firing Brian Daboll. Is Jackson Dart going to play? I don't know. If Jackson Dart doesn't play and it's Russell Wilson, there's a very strong possibility that this could be the number 1 defense to play. If it's Russell Wilson with all those sacks against the Green Bay Packers, there's a very, very, very high chance that this defense will shoot up my rankings if it is Russell Wilson in at quarterback. He's looked absolutely lost every time he gets out there. His confidence is shot. We'll see. We'll check the injury report. We'll keep an eye on it. Number 5, starting off the very good tier, it's the Los Angeles Chargers. And I don't know, I'm pretty high on them compared to consensus. They take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Consensus has them at 13. I have them here at number 5. The Chargers defense, they are traveling here. They've been up and down, had a lot of injuries. But one thing I know is Jacksonville, they play some sloppy offense. Now, Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be back in this one, hopefully, maybe. Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington. But the one thing about Jacksonville is they're just super inconsistent. They fluctuate up and down. This is going to be a very important game, though, in the AFC. Jacksonville loses a tough game against the Houston Texans, which was kind of a must-win game for them. Right now, they play the Los Angeles Chargers, who Chargers are in the hunt for the AFC West, and they can't afford to lose games either here. So we'll see who comes out on top. But the Jaguars have been very, very friendly to opposing defenses, especially when it comes to the sacks and the turnovers. Then I have Denver here at number 6, higher on Denver than consensus. Denver takes on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Broncos consensus has them at 8. I have them at 6. Denver's defense has been phenomenal. Obviously, no Patrick Surtain. I don't think. I doubt he's going to play. But Alex Singleton, unfortunately, if you don't follow, he's probably going to miss this game as well, or he will miss this game because unfortunately he got diagnosed with testicular cancer. So Justin Strnad is probably going to take his place. But you have Dre Greenlaw there. This defense has just looked really good. I like them against Kansas City. I know Kansas City's offense is phenomenal, but I'll go with the Broncos in terms of just how good their defense is playing. I don't expect this to be a very high-scoring game. I expect this to be a slug fest, and not a slugfest in points, a slugfest in just a very tough football game. They are playing at home against the Chiefs in this one, which is a little bit of an advantage here for the defense. Then you have the Falcons here at number 7. Consensus has them at 5. We talked about the Falcons. These divisional games can be a little bit weird. That's why I don't have them ranked nearly much higher, like consensus does. And we saw what happened last time. But this is a must-win game for the Falcons. So I do expect them to take care of business. I'm not as high on them as others. Then you have the Kansas City Chiefs here. I have them at 8. Consensus has them at 6. Consensus actually has them ahead. I actually have both of these defenses flipped. I have the Broncos at 6. Consensus has them at 8. I have the Chiefs at 8. Consensus has them at 6. Chiefs, though, I mean, they're going up against the Broncos. I think the floor is there, right, to be pretty high, just given the fact that the Broncos aren't generating a ton of yards. J.K. Dobbins probably going to go on IR. It's very real. I don't think he's playing this week. And Bo Nix has looked really, really shaky out there, and that's probably putting it lightly over the last 2 weeks. And they go up against a Kansas City defense, but this defense for Kansas City does not generate a lot of pressure. They're not a good – the defense is not generating pressure, so I don't think sacks will be there. Maybe some turnovers. We've seen that with Bo Nix, and maybe he has to force the ball a little bit because the running game is not going to be nearly as good, possibly, with J.K. Dobbins gone. But ultimately, the sacks not being as plentiful is why I have them here at number 8. Let's go ahead and move over to the next tier. And this is the good tier. So we have the elite tier, the very good tier. Now we have the good tier. And the Chicago Bears here at number 9. I'm lower on consensus. Consensus has them at 7. I have them at 9 here. The Bears taking on Minnesota. The secondary is still sketchy, but this Bears defense is playing very, very not motivated football, but very, very passionate football. I don't know how to put it, but inspired football. You get it. They're playing inspired football right now, right? They're fighting for a chance to get to the playoffs right now. They're in that picture. They're in the driver's seat a little bit right now. And Minnesota, they just lost a tough game against Baltimore after coming off a very, very emotional win versus the Lions. We'll see if that offense can bounce back, but I still like the Bears as a solid play this week. Then I have the Rams here at number 10. This is tough, right? Rams consensus has them at 9. I have them at 10. They're going up against Seattle. Both of these offenses, Seattle and the Rams offenses, are not giving up many sacks. They've been very, very good at protecting their quarterbacks. The one thing I will say, this is why I give the Rams an edge over Seattle's defense, is just because the Rams are home and the Seattle run game is not nearly as good as the Rams. And so ultimately, I think the Rams might have to be a little more one-dimensional and throw the football. We know how these divisional games go. This is going to be a really, really fun football game. I'm super excited to watch this one. Probably my favorite game on the week. Then we have here at number 11, the Minnesota Vikings. Consensus has them at 10. I have them at 11. They take on the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears are playing really, really good on offense this past week, and then I guess the week before that, because they had the Bengals. Maybe that kind of broke them out of their shell a little bit. The Vikings are kind of running on fumes a little bit. They've been up and down with injuries this year. It's not the same defense that we saw last year. Unfortunately, I think injuries have kind of derailed them, but I like them here at number 11. I think that's a fair spot. Caleb Williams, they just need to get to the quarterback, but the secondary has been kind of rough for the Vikings, and Caleb Williams and that Bears offense can probably exploit that. So we'll see what happens there. Then I have the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins, we talked about them. I had them here at 12. I could see them going ahead of the Vikings too. I just like the Dolphins this week. I don't need to talk too much about them, but consensus actually has the Dolphins here. I mean, really, really far. Let's see, Miami. I'm drawing a blank here. I'm trying to find it. Man, this is where I probably should pause the video, but I just assumed I would have found it a little quicker. Um, where are the Miami Dolphins? Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins. I, for the life of me, cannot find it. And it's driving me crazy. And I should probably pause the video here, but I'm not going to. Miami Dolphins 23. 23 is where they have the Vikings defense. I have them obviously ranked higher here. I'm going out on a limb. That's what I've been doing a little bit this year, more than last year. Last year we were both successful this year and last year. So we'll see what happens. But Miami Dolphins, a risky play, but I think there's a solid chance this defense comes through this week. So I have them at 12. Then I have Seattle at 13. We talked about Seattle a little bit. Stafford and the Rams are just playing awesome this year. This is one of those things where it's really hard for me to put them much higher. I will say I do think they can get to the quarterback and sack Stafford. He's kind of a statue back there, but they've kind of kept him clean. But this is a very, very good pass rush. The difference is the Rams pass rush is not nearly as good as Seattle's pass rush this year. So we'll see how that shakes out. Then I have the Detroit Lions here at 14. Consensus has them at 18. I'm surprised consensus is as low as on them here, but they're going against the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles, they've kind of cleaned up things a little bit when it comes to giving up sacks to the quarterback, but they looked really, really, really bad against the Packers. That offense is similar to Broncos, where it's kind of up and down. You don't know which offense you're going to get on a given week, and I think that's a good matchup for Detroit. I think they match up pretty well against that offense in Philadelphia. Now, this tier is kind of upside tier, but scary floor. All three of these defenses, you can definitely make a case to me that they'll finish higher than all the defenses in the previous tier that we just talked about. San Francisco 49ers, we talked about them already. I think they have upside with the sacks, right? Jacoby Brissett, 5 sacks in 3 straight weeks. Then you have the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against the Chargers. Chargers offensive line is so beat up right now that the Chargers are just giving up a lot of points to opposing defenses in fantasy because Herbert's taken some risks. He's been very, very good with what's been given to him this year, but he's also turned the football over, and ultimately the tackles here have been really, really rough because of all the injuries on the offensive line. And so, yeah, I mean, I think there could be some sacks here, but obviously the floor is kind of low because Jacksonville's pass defense is really not very good, and the front's not that great either. So, I mean, there's a world where it just becomes a very high-scoring game and kind of wrecks us, and we're just really, really depending on sacks. Then you have the Dallas Cowboys against the Las Vegas Raiders. We'll see who's the quarterback. Is it Geno Smith? Is it Aiden O'Connell? I know a lot of people are very, very high on the Dallas Cowboys this week. Some people, consensus has them at 14. I had them at 17. It's just not a very good defense. Now, Quinnen Williams is going to be back in this matchup. Is going to be there in this matchup, right? And then they also made an acquisition for Logan Wilson. So we'll see how this defense shakes out and if it turns the corner a little bit here. But they're going up against a team with the Raiders. While Raiders have struggled as well, Brock Bowers could absolutely tear this secondary up. I think it's very possible. But the Raiders the Cowboys are another team. Very low floor. All three of these defenses have low floors but high ceilings. One of them is probably going to have a top 12 week, possibly even top 5. I could very much see it. I just don't have the stomach to put them inside my top 12 because I just don't know which one is going to end up being a top 12 finish. If I had to guess, the Cowboys probably have the highest chance of finishing as a top unit out of those three, but they also have the lowest floor because they're the worst defense. So let's go ahead and look at our last tier here, and it's a scary starts tier. Buffalo Bills, they're in this tier that's good defense versus Tampa Bay. Buccaneers have turned the football over, taken some sacks. Then you have the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns are going up against Baltimore. I had them here at 19. You have the Bucs going up against Buffalo, who we just talked about. Then you have the Pittsburgh Steelers here at 21. Pittsburgh Steelers, their defense is just not the defense that we're accustomed to seeing in the past. They take on the Cincinnati Bengals. And then I have the Carolina Panthers here at 23. Carolina plays the Falcons. A lot of people have the Panthers higher. I do not. Cardinals at 23. They take on the 49ers. Cardinals could be a little bit of a sneakier play. They might be probably higher, but they're just really banged up on defense as well. And then I have the Titans here at 24. Titans going up against the Texans. I mean, there's a world where Titans end up being okay this week. Depending on who's a quarterback, but Davis Mills looked okay too. So we'll see how that shakes out. But that's going to do it for me, guys. Look, fingers crossed, right? I mean, this has been a little bit of a weird 2 weeks where we haven't been nearly as successful as we have been in the past. I appreciate y'all sticking with me here. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions, I'll update my rankings throughout the week like I normally do. Make sure you're following us on Discord. It is free to join. Follow me on Twitter at Supernova38. Also, check out our community posts because I try my best to make sure I post my updated rankings there as well. That's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you so much. Good luck this week, and I'll see you guys